Good morning, afternoon, and evening, my crazies. My name's Angela. I'm the Crazy Poppy Lady, and welcome back to today's video. Now, this one is a little different, and I'm sorry if I'm going to alienate some of you. I don't intend to. I just want to try and share some enjoyment. I took up knitting. Do you want to hear about it? I'll be talking about it after the titles, and I fully understand if it's not your thing and you move on to another video. Laters. Okay, so as the opening title said, I've taken up knitting. Now this is because I've done damage to my wrist with crochet. So I'm being forced not to crochet, or if I am crocheting, I'm only crocheting for 10-minute spurts. So it's crochet for 10 minutes, go off and do something, come back, crochet for another 10 minutes, and so on and so forth. So crochet projects are taking me far too long to make at the moment, whereas with a knitting pattern, with knitting, I can use the knitting needles as sort of a restriction, because, hold on, let me grab a knitting needle, because what I can do is, as I'm knitting, I hold it down the side of my arm like that, so I can't move from the wrist, I can only move from the elbow, which was really good at the beginning when I first started knitting, but I have had a little problem with my knitting needles. Yeah, luckily these were only pound shop purchase, so they only cost me a pound, but as you can see, definitely use them to restrict my wrist movement because they're so bent and buckled. Do not send me any knitting needles. You know who you are because you thought it. But so what I've done is I went to the charity shop and I picked up some circular knitting needles because of course they're a lot shorter and they are working brilliantly for me. So that was really good going. And really good find. I'd managed to pick up what I believe is a 4mm, a 3mm and a 2.5. So I'm thinking those should cover me, but the problem was I made one top and then promptly took them all out the packet and couldn't remember which packets they came in. Luckily I worked out one of them because they're only on it's a 40mm cord, whereas the other two are 80. So it's guesstimate, or at least it was until a package turned up this week with one of these measuring things in, so I believe I just get it and ran the needle through and whichever one it gets stuck in is the one that it is, at least that's what I hope anyway. So I'll be measuring them later and working it out properly, but yeah, as I said, I started knitting. Now before I started, I'd only made a couple of items 20 plus years ago, and that was a blanket that was all done in just the knit stitch, and a teddy bear when I was 15 that I believe was just in the knit stitch, that did not look like a teddy bear by the time I'd finished because I didn't swap needles or anything like that. I'd kept to the same needles. But as I said, I took up knitting, so I started off coming up here and picking up some black yarn because I thought, well, black's evil, I won't enjoy it, and then it'll be easier to put those circular needles to one side when I'm able to pick up my hook again. So I started casting on. Now, Turns out I know 3 different ways to cast on because I'd stupidly watched some videos while I was half asleep and it sank in. So I cast on, started working in black, got bored of black, couldn't see what I was doing, so swapped to white. Hold on. It's this top. Oh, let's move there. It's this top I'm talking about. This is basically what I knitted. No pattern from anybody, just cast on what I thought might be enough stitches. Wasn't quite, but right. So I cast on the stitches and I started knitting in the black. Then I moved to the white. Did a couple of rows of white and thought, right, okay, now I can see where this knit and purling lark is, because I had to learn to purl. So I kept going with the knit and the purl, swapping the colours because I was getting bored. And then I remembered my nephew wants me to make him a vest in a granddad style, and I was lovingly gifted the pattern, but I had to learn how to do floats. So then we get a float section where I learned how to do floats. Then I got bored of floats, so I went back to being boring again, black and white stripes. And I just kept going with the pattern, okay, until I got to where I believed I needed to do armholes. So then I had to learn how to do armholes, or at least the decreasing for them. So I learnt that. I watched lots of videos. Everybody is working in chunky yarn, not in DK, so it's not like I could steal the numbers and the measurements. I just had to guesstimate. So I did the armholes, and then I knew I needed to learn how to do a V. So I did that as well. Watched loads of videos, took the principles of those videos, and then of course turned it into a V. Then I had to learn how to pick up stitches. So I learned that, picked up the stitches, then learnt how to do ribbing. Oh, that was so confusing until I got to the last big chunky bit here. And of course, how to make the V look neat at the bottom. Well, I mucked that up on the black and white one. That does not look neat and tidy at all. I got the stitches around the wrong way. Well, I'd finished that one and I showed cheeky Sabrina. And she said, I want to make that. Have you got the pattern written down? And I'm like, what? I'm not writing no pattern. Well, she's talking me into writing this pattern, and it is so confusing. I'd never looked at a knitting pattern at this point. So it was just what I'd written down so that I understood it. Right? So then we start again. Right? So project number 2. I now did it in a really nice shade of purple, which is showing up really beautifully on camera. It's a little bit darker than it's showing up here. But in different light, it changes colour. So 1 minute is purple, and then in the evenings it's a maroon, like a reddy purple. But it isn't. It's a nice bright purple. Really strange yarn. Confused me. It did. It confused me. Well, now Sabrina said to me, try casting on this magic number. So I cast on this magic number that she gave me, and she also told me to start with the ribbing. So I started with the ribbing, and I got carried away and I did my ribbing. And then I started the pattern again. This is not sitting on here nice and neatly, but I don't care. And then I did the front again. And by this time, I worked out the V properly, and I got the V done properly, and I was super chuffed with that. And then I went on to the back where I lost count quite a lot. But I mastered a saving line. So you put a scrap piece of yarn through your work as you're going. And it means that if you have to rip it back, you can pick up the stitches really easily. I wish I'd known that on the first one, not the second. But I did it. I did it. Right, so there's a number 2 now. This one fits lovely. So thank you for telling me my magic number, Sabrina. Okay. And I will put that one on in a few moments so you can see roughly what it looks like. Now, because I'm not able to crochet as much as I wanted, I actually popped round to the charity shops. Now, this is a bit where my knitters might find this interesting. Let's get rid of the bent duo, or the buckled, I should say. Now, I went charity shop shopping, looking for patterns, like knitting patterns. And now, I managed to find this one book, and it's by a Serda. Okay, And it says on the packet or on the back that there is 16 stunning designs in calico double knitting, perfect for summer and days and holidays. Okay, so there's meant to be 16 patterns in here. These books are written so differently to all of the other books that I've got that are crochet in this room. As I said, until I picked up this, I'd not looked at a knitting pattern. So I don't know what any of the codes mean. I know squat diddly, because I am starting from scratch. Now, there is a couple of pretty ones in here. So let me show you. Is that the same? Yeah, that's the same. All right, so we have this design here. This design number 1. They don't name them, which is very strange. Or should I say that's design F. And they're saying it's knitted from 4 balls of this calico. I've never had calico, so I don't know how thick it is. I don't know any details about it at all. They may have something written in here about the yarn, but I haven't found it yet. Okay, the next pattern is pattern G, and this knits from 7 balls. Now this is a variation of the pattern I actually started this weekend. I started the smaller version. I thought, well, if I'm in the mood for vests, I might as well keep going. But when I get to the end of the vest, I can then decide if I want to do the sleeves. The next one up is design H. Now, this isn't for me. Okay, it's too short. But then they are evil because I think that is that the same. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Design F knits with 4 balls and it's longer. But again, this isn't a pattern for me because my stomach will just protrude out of that hole there. Right, the next one is design A. And this one knits from 5 balls. Now, I quite like the look of this one. So this might be one for another time. Okay, so the title page is saying design A is a sweater and top. Design B is a cardigan. Design C are cardigans. Design D is tops. Design E is tops. Design F is cardigans. Design G is sweaters. Design H is jackets. And then they've got some extra information about what I can and can't do with this book. Now, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. I'm not going to show you I'm going to cover the written section. But this is how they set out the pattern with your sizings, which is pretty good. It's a nice thing to do. And the shapes, how many balls, what else is there? You've got your tension information, your materials information, and your abbreviations. Now that is at the start of all of the patterns. And they start off by making the back of the garment, whether it be a sweater, a jumper, whatever. They start with the back and then you'll make the extra sections for the front. This is so confusing. I actually sat down the other night, and I haven't got it here, it must still be downstairs. I sat down and I rewrote out the pattern that I'm actually going to be working on, because there was just too much information there for me. And I know what my brain is like. If I'm getting tired, the numbers bounce all over the place because of my dyslexia. And there's only so many times my post-it notes will stick in the same spot. So I sat down and I just wrote out the information that I needed. But when it came to knitting the garment that I wanted to knit, there is nothing to show you because I ripped it back. But I'm making this one. Okay, whether it be short, no sleeves, or with sleeves, I don't know. But if I just show you, I'm going to be making this one. I like a challenge, but this is just psychotic. What why on earth didn't I just stick to a plain top with plain sleeves and no real aggravation? No, not me. No, I have to pick one that has got some new terms and some new things that I need to learn. Like, where's the words? Where's the words? PSSO. Pass slip stitch over. What's the next one I need to learn? S1. Slip one stitch knitwise. Tog together. Sort of know roughly the understanding of that one, considering I do it in crochet. YFWD, yarn forward. I'd sort of guessed that because it was a weird abbreviation. I was like, I've got to guess the abbreviation before I look it up. Then it's YON, yarn over needle, and YRN, yarn round needle. All of these terms I didn't know. All of these terms I looked up on YouTube. I tell you what, the knitting community is as beautiful as the crochet community. As far as here's a short video, this is what you got to do, get on with it. So I did. I got on with the pattern that I'd cast on, and I got the first repeat done, and then I mucked up because I got my rows. I confused myself with what row I was on, so stripped it back and started again. It was only 4 rows of 164 stitches. Stripped it back, started again. This morning I got up and carried on going, thinking I was starting on row 1 of the repeat. I did start on row 1 of the repeat. I don't know what I did, but my numbers were skew-if and all over the place. When I looked at the pattern, it looked like I was working upside down and ran the wrong way and all really, really skew-if. So I ripped it back and cast on again. So I've now got my circular sitting downstairs with 164 stitches, waiting for me to start again and not scream at it. But I thought I would show you the yarn that I'm actually planning to use, or should I say that I've already wound up, because I put it on my wool winder because I thought, well, do you know what? This is not going to sit on my wool winder properly. Come on out. Now, I've left the actual ones downstairs that I'm working with, but I may end up having to jump into these bags as well, because as I wound it up, it just doesn't look like 100 grams. I'm not having a lot of luck of late purchasing yarns at 100 grams. If you've seen my video from last week, you'll also have seen my muck up when I purchased yarns. Now, the yarn I'm using is from a yarn company in Australia. Now, I was really, really lucky. I was taken to Bendigo Wool and Mills by another beautiful creator, Mary, over at Wow Crochet. And we had a whole day trip out. There is a video, I'll see if I can find it, with a brief story of what we got up to. Us girls were rather cheeky and naughty, but food. She took me to Bendigo. Now, it's got tons of cotton, tons of different blends of yarn, and they make all the yarn on site, dye it all and sell it on site. So there is so much choice there. And I'd gone around the front of the shop. I was in yarn heaven, but there was just so much, and I had to think about what I could get in my suitcase and bring home, because at that point I didn't know I'd be going back a few months later. If I'd have known, I'd have just left it in the bottom of her wardrobe and bought it back later. That's the mother-in-law's wardrobe. Well, we went there and I found the only acrylic that they had in the entire place. and it is this stuff here. It's called, come on, focus in, come on, there we go. It's called Tempo, and it's a 10 ply heirloom. There is meant to be 100 grams at standard condition, whatever that means, but after I wound up my first ball, it only had 70. So I'm not too sure. It may be the fact that it's been sitting in a bag for a while. It's been crushed when we flew back, and it's just been sitting up on the shelf. Maybe I actually need to take it out, give it a bit of a wobble, and leave it for a bit to re-floof out. But the one that I've chosen has got a blue, green and yellow, which aren't really colours that I normally play with, she says, looking at this, and it's blue and yellow. Okay, I'm going through a phase. But it's got a really beautiful, let's see if it'll show up, there we go. Oh, that is true to colour. Right, so a really beautiful blue, a green is that finger, and a yellow at the bottom. And as I was knitting it up, it fades in beautifully. So I'd sat there and I knitted up that sample the other night, which I've now ripped back, and I wish I hadn't, because then I could have showed you. Now, the information on the back of the yarn label says that you can machine or hand wash, normal spin, do not iron, do not bleach, cold rinse well, do not wring, do not tumble dry, dry clean 30, dry flat in shade. Because of course this is Australia, and I can tell you now, I've had wash loads that have been dry in 10 minutes. Basically, as I'm hanging it out, my husband's coming behind me, bringing it back in. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But here in the UK, that'll probably take about 8 hours, but hey ho. So luckily I've got 10 balls of that yarn in that colourway, so fingers crossed there'll be enough to make the top. If there is, it'll be a long sleeve, and if there isn't, it will be a no sleeve. Simples. But what I'll do is I'll keep working on that project, and there'll be another bit coming up shortly with a bit of the project done. This video is going to have to sit in storage for a couple of weeks until it's done. But fingers crossed you like the end product. Okay, so here is the project so far. Yeah, as you can see, it's not very long. I think I'm on my fourth repeat, I believe. Now, the yarn that I'm using is this one here. It is called Tempo. It's 10 ply heirloom yarn. There is 100 grams per ball. At the moment though, these aren't quite weighing in at 100 grams, or a lot less. I think that's down to the fact that they got squished in the suitcase. So this is what the yarn looks like in its cake ball form. Sorry, it should look a lot neater than this, but it doesn't at the moment. Okay, so we've got 3 different colours here. We've got the blue, we've got a green, and we've got a yellow. Now you'll see them a lot better once it is caked up. Look at that. It's quite cute actually caked. It looks so different caked to donutted. Right, now the yarn has a white strand that runs through all of the different colourways, and the colours gradually blend. So as I said, this is the swatch as it is. I'm sorry the colour is a little off. My lighting here is a bit naff at the moment, but hopefully you can see it quite nicely. I am loving how this has come up. This is my 3rd attempt at it. The first one was extremely loose, really loose, really holy. I could probably get my head in the holes. The second attempt wasn't looking too bad, but it looked like I was clearly using the wrong yarn and needle combination. It was like I was working the pattern on, say, 8mm. Now I wasn't too sure what these needle sizes were, so I get out my cool little gauge that I've just brought. It's not a 6, it's not a 7. Oh, I'm going the wrong way even. Right, where are we? It is a 4mm. Sweet. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. There will be progress updates on that top that that I've just shown you. Fingers crossed I managed to work my way through it. It's definitely more challenging now that I've got more letters and abbreviations to play with and techniques. And yes, I am back crazy for even attempting this for my second pattern. This, of course, being the first. That was the first draft. This is the second draft, and it's still in the process of being written up. It's compared to that pattern, very simple to follow. So if you would like to be a tester for it, please give me send me an email saying a tester for the top. Say knitted top, because as you can see behind me, there's quite a lot of crochet ones that I could get confused with. Right, that is it for me for today. I will see you all really soon. So please remember, stay chilled, stay happy, and keep crafting. Goodbye, everybody.